I'm curious, how does this apply? How does this apply to, the girls on the whatever podcast, for example, or the guys on the whatever podcast? Like, how does this apply to them? Is this just a, hey, let's focus on our worlds, let's connect with one another who are of like mind in terms of a healthy image of what these roles mean, and then it's going from there and just impacting people around you? I just want to hear you guys' thoughts. What
a great question, Jeff. I'll tell you what I tell the young guys that I talk to, and then Justice, I think, could answer also with, kind of what she would say. Because I actually interact with a lot of guys who love Andrew Tate, who are kind of wrapped into this because there's a sense of hopelessness. First of all, I mean, there's like, every girl I know is like, a thirst trap. She's on OnlyFans. She's like doing all these, she's radical feminist. She's like, so there's this kind of hopelessness that there's no good like women in the world. And so I'm always just encouragement. First of all, like, you need to be a good man before you can do don't worry about women right now. Be a good man. You need to be doing these things. You need to start like raising yourself, like training yourself from a character standpoint. You need to focus on scripture. You need to be part of a church community. What are you doing to like be able to provide for a woman? Like, what are you physically doing? Like, what are you doing for work? Like, how can you elevate that? Like, how can you challenge yourself? Like, so I'm always telling these young men, first of all, have hope that there's someone out there, because there is. Like, there is a good woman out there. Like, do not blow like who you can be as a person by listening to Andrew Tate right now,
dude, for real.
And so I just try to like seed hope and seed responsibility, like those two things in young men's heart. And so I feel like, because it doesn't do any good to focus on things that you can't control. We all know this. Like, focus on the things that you can control, that's right in front of you. And so that's what I tell young men. I don't know.
Yeah. I think part of that would be, as we see young women who are like, why are women getting on OnlyFans? Why are they creating this type of content? And Chris and I have had some like lighthearted arguments about this, because I think typically the male perspective is for attention. You just are attention seeking, and I actually don't think that's the case. I think that
interesting. Okay, I would have probably said the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there is an element of that.
Well, I would say this brokenness. I mean, anytime anybody does something like that, there's brokenness. There's a need to be met. But sorry, I want to.
Yeah. And there is a biological drive in women to seek male attention, and it's for our own protection. And so that's going to play out in if the feminist movement is telling us that is the acceptable way to play it out, then it's going to play out that way. But I think also it comes back again to women feel like they have to be producing the same type of fruitfulness as men. And as a woman, there's few things that can make you as much money as fast as doing something like OnlyFans. These girls are making like $10,000 a month easy.
That's crazy, man.
Just from, creating this, sometimes soft pornographic all the way up to pornographic type of material. And so I think one issue is feeling this pressure that I need to provide for myself, because there are not men who are worthy or safe to like come underneath. And, I'm going to risk using this word, but to submit to. And I don't sense of obedience, but to come under his protection. And I've talked to so many young women in the last couple of years who want to have like a traditional marriage, who want to have like this beautiful dynamic. They're describing everything that is like a very traditional marriage, but they're like, oh, I won't share a bank account. Oh, I would never stop working and just take care of my kids, because that would make me really vulnerable if we got divorced. And I'm going, why are you planning for
right?
Divorce?
Why is divorce even, a footnote, I guess, in your
yes, and it's
charting out your life? Yeah,
it's really sad, because that is the message that young women have right now, that marriage is unsafe, men are unsafe, and so they're not. I have to make sure. Not only do I need to have my female fruitfulness, because I'm going to have babies and I'm going to want to mother them and nurture them inevitably, but I'm going to also need to be financially stable and secure enough that if something happens, I can support myself. Like, that is so sad. We have to be willing to surrender. And that is very scary as women because it's very vulnerable. But kind of like what Chris was saying, there are good men who are worthy of surrendering to and submitting to. Chris is not perfect, but he is still a good man who is like 100% worth me submitting and surrendering to. Like, I am completely at his mercy. Like, he provides for us. I work very part-time. He provides for us and enables me to be able to eat the organic food that I need to eat for my like food allergy.
And he hunts too.
And
So he
exactly.
literally hunts and gathers.
Talk about organic
Yeah.
food. And to take care of, yeah, if Chris wanted to divorce me, I'd be screwed. But you know what? I'm not scared of that because Chris and I are both 100% dedicated to our marriage. We're 100% dedicated to surrendering to like how God has called us to live as man and woman. And so there are men like that. They're out there and they're desperately looking for good women. So if you're a woman who is like wanting that, be willing to surrender, because otherwise that man who is willing to provide is not going to be, you're not going to be the kind of woman that they're looking for.
Well, and be mindful where you're looking for men or women, right? Like that's the other thing is like, I've heard so many people who are like, I can't find a good man. And I'm like, and they're like, but they're going to bars and that's where they're like, I mean, if I may,
totally,
you might want to leave the meat market and go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like to find, you know, gyms can be the same way. I mean, they're kind of, I call them meat markets as well. But, like,
yeah. I mean, and there are some basic things. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I feel like this dynamic that we're talking about only works when you have two people that are submitted to God and submitted to a biblical way of doing things.